friends at Tivoli Brewing Company and the Department of Communication Arts and Sciences at MSU Denver, this is Unfiltered. And here are your hosts, Jay Schrader and Dr. Samuel J.
Do you think that the reason why we think lager is a shit beer is because of the macro breweries? Like we've come to expect that?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I would say. I think that, there you go. I think that for a long time, Americans weren't drinking any beer other than a really light, watered-down adjuncty lager that you get from, the big corporation breweries. And so now that you have people, let's say like Bierstadt, that are making this phenomenal liquid that is so true to what you get in Germany, I think a lot of people kind of sleep on it. It's like, oh, we'll just go grab a Pilsner or something. And I think when a lot of brewers make Helles or Pils that, will ferment it cold and it'll be all right.
It'll do its thing.
When it's, there's a lot more tricks to it. So that's what I mean by, she basically Ashley taught me how to make an actual lager. Like, what are some of those little tricks that when you think about it in part of the process of brewing the beer, and you think of a lot of the off flavors you get in a lot of breweries' lagers, a light bulb goes off. You're like, oh, I get it. I get why you have to check for that, like she says. So I get why she told me to do this. So it was really awesome to brew the Pilsner and be able to enjoy it because I never thought I'd brew lager here. At all.
Well, lager's making a huge comeback in the craft scene.
I would hope so.
For so long, you were looking at stouts and IPAs and fruited fucking everything, and then all of a sudden
pastry lagers.
Pastry lagers.
Pastry lager.
A Pilsner with Oreos.
You don't want a donut with your beer?
Ooh. Jay, where are we?
Oh, we're home of the second best Pilsner in Colorado.
No, town.
Okay.
Oh, I was giving you a little too much credit. Sorry, Tamir.
I guess I gotta have that one next.
Yeah, dude, it's good. It's good. Novel Strand, First and Cherokee in the historic Baker neighborhood.
I will say, if you have not been here, you need to get here. Whether it's for what time you open in the morning.
So every day of the week from 7 to 3, Queen City operates out of the tap room. So they sell some of the best coffee you can get, whether you want to get bags to go or drink an espresso or black coffee here. And then throughout the week, we take over at 3 o'clock, and on Saturday and Sunday, we share the space between noon and 3. So you can come grab a beer, coffee grabs a coffee, you play board games, sit outside on the patio, do whatever.
So beer's not available till 3 during the week?
During the week.
Okay, that's all
right.
right.
If I'm here sometimes, and by sometimes I mean all the time, someone asks, I usually acquiesce and pour a beer.
And
I'd
who
hate
are we
to say no, but
who are we speaking with?
Introduce yourself, please.
I am the janitor.
I saw that.
Yeah, he said he knew how to get us free beer.
Jesus, the
I have
janitor.
the keys to everything you please.
Yes.
I'm Tamir.
What's your last name, Tamir?
Tamir Danon.
Okay, Tamir Danon. We gotta ask Tamir, where's that accent from?
I don't know. It's from all over the place. It's a little bit New York, a little bit Israel. I don't know. All over the place.
How long you been out in Denver?
My wife and I moved to Denver, and my boss here at the brewery moved to Denver almost 4 years ago now.
Okay.
When you say
a month or two, it'll be 4 years.
My boss, you mean your wife is your boss?
I'm a lucky man.
Yeah, you are.
It's a decent boss to have, man.
Well, cheers.
Yeah, no kidding.
Thanks for having us in,
Thanks
Tamir.
so much, Tamir. This place
Thank you
is
for joining
fantastic. So, in case we forget, what's the fastest way to get here?
Well, not from the tech center.
No.
The easiest way is either to come from Santa Fe if you're coming from the south, or down from Broadway if you're coming from up north.
Okay.
And then we're right in the middle of both. We're in the middle of Baker, so we're like a little secret. We're quiet.
It's beautiful though.
We're tucked away.
Spot.
Great space. I was saying
we're just off Broadway, 3 blocks, so you can walk right over, have a beer.
Yeah.
It's shady too.
Oh no, it's gorgeous. It's a neighborhood. It's not a strip mall. It's not a cliche brewery location either. I mean, I was telling Tamir before we started recording, drove by this place for like 2 years watching them build out the old building and everything. Just could not wait. And then, as chance would have it, no longer work in the neighborhood, so it's not as easy to swing by.
Sadly.
Yeah.
We have that from a lot of people. A lot of people jokingly get mad at us when they come in and say, what the hell took you so long?
Well, I'm
I
not
just
blaming.
moved out of the neighborhood. Like, why are you guys open now? And it's like, I'm sorry, we tried.
Yeah, it's
We
not
tried
your
to do it as
fault.
fast as we could.
The janitor's not the contractor, is he?
No, but I could grease some processes to go faster.
There's no love lost. I'm here.
What's the story of Novel Strand? How did this thing happen?
I wanted other people to finance my beer drinking problem.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
No.
Hey,
No.
hey,
Well,
dude.
brothers in arms.
Yeah,
aren't
I
we?
was gonna say somebody stole a page out of our playbook here.
Yes.
No, so Novel Strand was opened by my wife Chantel
Okay.
and our friend Ayana, and then myself. Kind of started out more as a joke. We used to sit at a bar in Troy in upstate New York where we all went to university. Bar called The Ruck. It's a really good beer bar if you find yourself in Troy
Okay.
for
Next
whatever
time,
reason.
road trip.
Yeah. Hey, I got long losts in Buffalo.
And we used to sit and drink and just, joke about it would be cool to have a beer bar or a brewery. And I was home brewing at the time and studying microbiology and molecular biology, stuff like that, biochemistry. So we joked about it. And then eventually Chantel and I moved out here, and I got into the brewing industry, like professionally, and then quickly decided to just open this place. I think that once you realize how to do what you need to do, don't wait.
I noticed that you went to Rensselaer, so
Yeah,
you are a
yeah.
smart motherfucker.
That's what
that means.
my mom likes to think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too dumb, but I don't know about smart.
So when
Just
you say
smart enough.
So you're drinking at this bar, you're thinking about doing it. When did you actually start homebrewing?
Before I turned 21.
Yep. That's the theme lately.
dude.
So no, I've been drinking beer underage for a while.
Okay.
I don't really like alcohol, so it wasn't like I'm trying to get drunk or stuff like that. I don't really drink liquor or wine, anything like that. I just really like beer. The flavor of the beer always was interesting to me, and the fact that so many different flavors can be beer. Like there's no, people say there's a beer taste when you talk about Pilsner, like, oh, good, tastes like beer, but that's not necessarily true. That's just a style of beer.
Right.
So I was really into just trying to find out how to get certain flavors and how yeast affects stuff, because I was interested in biology and how hops affected stuff. And so from like maybe 14 to 20 was a lot of like very low-key data collection of drinking, a beer
wow.
after dinner. I had a fake ID. I had a beard and chest hair already when I was 16. That's the
Yeah, I got you there.
Mediterranean roots from my dad.
And was all this in Israel at the
this
time?
is in upstate New
This
York
is in
already.
upstate New
Yeah,
York.
I was already living
Okay.
here. And so, like, I always say a funny story that I would go to, like, the beer store, and I would go to the import aisle, and, I'm standing there. At the time, this was available on the shelf, so I'm looking at, like, Cantillon and Driefontein in bottles that nowadays people have to fly to Belgium to get,
Sure,
or
sure.
wait for the drop once in a while. Phenomenal world-class beers that were just sitting on the shelf collecting dust in the early 2000s because nobody cared about
You were the only one buying them.
So
and they're not going to second guess that fake ID, right?
That's what I'm saying. So I'm showing up with like a light beard and a shirt that shows some chest hair. And a normal underage kid would be with like 30 racks of Keystone.
Yeah,
or
you had a
something. And I'm
sophisticated
I had
palate.
like a bottle of Cantillon, bottle of Driefontein, and I'm trying this English beer.
Nice.
So, and I had been there for like 10, 15 minutes browsing that import aisle. So, yeah, it never really got questioned. So when I started homebrewing, I think I had a decent idea of like, okay, if you add oats, it does this. If you add wheat, it does this. Yeast from this country tend to have this flavor profile and tend to leave the beer this dry, And so, I brewed one beer like a kit just to make sure that I could brew in the house.
Mr. Beer.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember what it was. Like we did a Scottish ale. We called it Edinburgh Eddie. Stupid, kid shit. But we made a beer without any contamination or anything, and so that for me was like cool. Now I can like figure this out. So I made a recipe based again on what I just told you, like stuff that I had just noticed in beer. And I really liked Belgian beer. I think most people get really woken up by Belgian beer, maybe except Belgians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have it all the time, but I think that especially in America, you talk to a lot of brewers, and most of the brewers, even going back to the old guard, Garrett Oliver, Brooklyn Brewery, stuff like that, people try Belgian beer, and all of a sudden they're like, holy shit.
It's eye-opening.
I think that was my experience too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
what I'm
think
saying.
Yeah,
See?
yeah,
Birds
no,
of a
it's
feather.
like your first dabble is that. Yeah. for sure.
So the recipe I made was like a hybrid between a wit beer and a triple, Belgian triple.
Okay.
Or Tripel. if
Yeah, I
you
was
want to
gonna
be
say. There you go.
fancy. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
offend any purists. And this is a beer that actually we're going to do here at Novel Strand eventually. It's called Triple Nitwit. And we already have Nitwit as our wit beer, so Triple Nitwit is the triple wit beer hybrid. And it was like a recipe from scratch, like all grain on the second batch I ever brewed. A recipe I made off the top of my head, basically. You know, I was like, let's throw some flaked oats, we'll put some wheat, some light malt, some honey malt, blah, 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 fermented with a wit beer yeast and with like a triple, like an Abbey yeast. And I remember with my friend Kevin, if you're listening, after we bottled it, I remember looking like a few days after, and the bottles already had like a thick sediment, and I was starting to freak out. I was like, that's too much sediment. It's got to be like contaminated. Like, I can't, I'm just too nervous. And Kevin's just like, dude, you're being annoying as hell. Let's just open a bottle. And I was like, no way, it's not carbonated yet. It's only been 5 days or a week or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but you're not going to stop bitching about this, so let's just open the bottle. And I remember we like muted the TV, turned down the music, like made sure the house was quiet, washed 2 glasses, went to the living room, popped open the bottle, and you hear like the tss, and I was like, yes, like it's alive. And we poured it in the glasses and like smelled it, and it's like, it smells like Belgian beer, dude. And we took a sip, and I remember running around my apartment at the time, like jumping on my bed, being like, that's fucking beer, like that's real beer, that like a recipe that
you made.
That's what I'm saying, and it came out roughly. It wasn't the best efficiency, but it came out roughly the alcohol we wanted and everything. So like, that was cool. And after that, I just kept experimenting with different stuff. And Chantel and I moved to Queens, and I got to hang out with a lot of breweries that were first coming up that are now like massive. So I got to talk to a lot of people and sort of get ideas about what they do, and again, just sort of expand my knowledge about like, if I want to get this flavor, what do I do? If I want to get that flavor, what do I do? As opposed to just running blind or like always trying to think like, what's the new and exciting stuff? It was just more about like, I want to learn all the little bits and pieces so that when I finally put them together, I can control it as best as possible, make the best beer I can. So.
I can already tell it's gonna be one of our favorite interviews.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Well,
clear.
I mean, when was the last time we talked to anybody in this space that was that excited about their
I
first
know.
beer?
That's.
I mean, we know these guys are smart and we know they have fun with what they're doing, but Jesus, you can still see
dude,
the
other
glint in his eye.
Other people take beer seriously too. I don't do anything special about that, but
No, it's just visible excitement. I mean,
Yeah.
we can hear it and see it.
You love to do it.
Beer made the world, fellas. I mean, beer is it's a really cool thing because you can focus on it and like nerd out over it, you know, and take it so seriously, but you can also just like drink good beer and hang out with friends, and the beer is literally non-existent. It's just something that you're drinking that eventually gets you buzzed. And I think like that's what's important about beers, like a drinkability. You can pass time with friends, that you can sit down, enjoy life, enjoy the day, enjoy a conversation, and beer helps facilitate and lubricate that. And I mean, if you're not excited about that, then you probably don't like people too much.
Do you notice the difference between the beer culture on the East Coast and the beer culture as you move across the country? Having spent time in different
So what I
areas.
would say more is that on the East Coast, it's very similar to the way I think politics is done. So like the East Coast, especially in the Northeast, is very clustered. You know, the centers of where people live are very clustered, and ideas and styles and inspiration spread really quickly. And so I would say even like the more rural parts of the East Coast have a beer selection that more closely mimics what's going on in the bigger cities of the East Coast. So Portland, Maine, New York City, Boston, like places where, you know, for Burlington, Vermont, obviously, where you get just insane amounts of high quality beer across all styles, whether you want lagers or you want like mixed fermentation beer, you want hoppy stuff, obviously New England IPAs that kind of changed the whole hop world. I think out west, and as you move out west through the Midwest, it's less clustered, and so the big cities are typically like, you know,
Hubs.
up to date. So
Yeah.
like Denver, for example, you know, it's no different from any other massive beer city. We have some of the best beer in the country. Everywhere, anywhere you go, there's breweries that specialize in specific beers because they can do that. You know, one of the reasons we moved to Denver to open up was because the beer culture here was so strong, and I was like, no one's gonna get freaked out or weirded out if I put on a sour beer or something like that. But then what I feel is that the more rural parts of the Midwest and as you go west are less caught up because it's more spread out and they don't get as many people stopping by all the time.
Not as many commuters.
So I'm, like the Hudson Valley region of New York, for example, is fairly rural. But there's a few cities scattered throughout it that are smaller, and it's between the capital, so Albany, and between New York City, which is a constant hub of people.
Yeah.
I-87. And so those breweries are making some of the best beer, again, in the country, like Suarez Family Brewing, Peekskill, Sloop, places like that. Common Roots in upstate. So these places on the East Coast, I just think it's more clustered together. So the ideas and everything modernizes. I don't like that word really, but everything just kind of catches up to a sort of level of exposure. So you'll see the same style of beers. You'll see less of the more old classic styles of American beer and more towards like the new hoppy stuff, sour stuff, barrel-aged, bottled beer, which is where the American beer scene is quietly moving along with the pastry stuff and all the fun experimental things that people do get excited about. And it's not my cup of tea, but I'm not going to get mad at anyone for getting excited about a beer, whatever it's done to it.
You can see it even in the Midwest now, and I think a lot of it has to do with cities like Denver and Seattle, San Francisco. They're just too expensive for people, people our age, for most people our age to live there. But what happens is there's this exodus and they're ending up in places like Omaha or Des Moines. And so like the beer scene now in Des Moines is just insane. Like who would ever think that there's good beer in Des Moines, Iowa? But there is. I mean, Wisconsin's going through the same kind of thing. And so
Omaha's moving that direction too, yeah.
But you see it, there's these Facebook groups and you'll see someone pop up and say, I'm going to this city. Any recommendations? And 100 people
with 100 different ideas.
What I'm saying.
Colorado Craft Beer Talk.
Listing up, they start listing up for every city in the country that you can think about. So that's where the industry needs to go. There will be a check. There's no bubble bursting like everyone thinks. The bubble bursts when the world goes to shit and the economy collapses and money doesn't count anymore. There's your craft beer bubble bursting. In reality, what's going to happen is beer is going to keep proliferating, and I think more places like what we have here is going to become more common because neighborhoods will have a few breweries. You'll have one of your bigger 1 or 2 regional breweries, and then you'll maybe have 1 or 2, depending on the size of your state, like big breweries. And the neighborhood breweries that pop up are going to be making less beer, but more varieties of beer and more often. And that's going to be the thing. So generally, you might not have to leave your neighborhood during the week to get a good beer. And on the weekend, people from other neighborhoods will switch around. And sure, in every neighborhood, there will be a brewery maybe that like takes the attention. It's like, oh shit, people from out of town come there and all that. But when you go to places like Germany, there's like every little town has a brewery. Sometimes multiple ones. And I mean every little town.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're going to eventually get, where we sort of return to the original model that the United States had before Prohibition, where there's breweries everywhere. And I think that's a good thing because then there's less, I know people are going to think I'm crazy, there's less stress for trying new shit and for more competition because you already know that you're in a neighborhood, you have a clientele, the clientele already determined what size you are. And that's okay too. Not every brewery needs to, blow up and get sold for $10 million. That's not a sustainable dream for every brewery that opens up. And so I think slowly we're going to move towards more small breweries, and I mean small, like 5 barrel, like we are, 7 barrels, 3 barrels. I think that's where it'll eventually go. I mean, in our neighborhood alone, in Baker, you have, and I'm not even saying Baker, I'll even say in a half a mile radius, you have Bandit Oak, Bear, True, and us. And like out of those, True's the biggest, obviously. They're out in stores. They're out on the East Coast. They make phenomenal beer. Bear will be in some stores, and then Bandit Oak and us are basically solely out of the tap room.
And then you've got going this way. You've got Crazy Mountain, which kind of top 40 production
I'm
capability.
more saying like in our tiny half mile, all of our breweries still get business.
Yeah. None of them are empty.
You know what I mean? So Bandit Oak's got people in it, Bear's got people in it, True's got people in it, we've got people, and we're all in one tiny neighborhood.
I was in...
So that's what I more mean by that's where it's going. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. I was in Bandit Oak and I was in Bear last week, and all the guys from Bandit Oak were sitting at the bar having a beer before they started their shift. And that's the other thing I would imagine too that you're seeing is
We're all homies, man.
everybody's still in the community. Now you talk a lot about neighborhood and the idea that you're a neighborhood brewery. Do you live in this neighborhood?
I live 5 blocks away.
I love it. It's perfect. And we ask that question not every time because not everybody gets the idea of a neighborhood pub, but
No,
obviously
two of our friends
regulars
just came in that are regulars, and she sees me with all the equipment and you guys, and she's making eyes like, what's going on? But that's a neighborhood brewery. They come all the time, and they see something going on, so it's like, oh, have the fun. Look what's happening.
How does that change? I mean, I know you're going to keep going, but I want to know before I forget. So there's a big difference between how you go about running a business. Are you closer to a restaurateur than you are?
No, man, I'm closer to a brewery, but again, to what? And I hate using the term, but like to a European brewery, quote unquote. Like what I'm saying, what we're going for is a lot more old school thing. Like you guys were commenting about, it doesn't look like, an average brewery tap room and blah blah blah. And to us, a lot of those things, not every brewery, right? I'm not talking generality or majorities. I'm talking every once in a while you go to a brewery and it feels kind of forced. Like there's some sort of forced gimmick or something like that. And all these things for me are things that detract from the beer. My focus is I'm going to serve you the best beer I can serve you. Queen City is going to serve you the best coffee they're going to serve you. So we create a calm, easy environment to hang out there, and there's no gimmicks, nothing on the walls shouts out to you. Because we want you to just hang out and have a beer, hang out, have a coffee. So we're more about doing what we think our businesses should operate like. So I'm not more like a restaurant or more like a this, or I'm more like I'm trying to do what I think a brewery tap room should be like for what I want to operate.
This is the kind of place where I want to come at 3:30 on a Monday, leave my office, but continue to work, have a beer instead of a coffee, right? Like this is the vibe. And those kind of places, I think even in the city, are so rare. And they're very rare in a lot of, like in most places. And so I really appreciate you kind of saying that.
When it gets busy here, for the bartenders, it's crazy, but I feel like people behind or on the other side of the bar, so customers don't necessarily feel how busy it is, because even when it's full in here, it still kind of feels like you're just hanging out.
Yeah.
And that's something we worked very hard to get. But that's also something that when we traveled, when my wife and I went to Belgium and Paris, a lot of the bars and a lot of the places look and feel like this, and we really like that because, again, it's inviting. It's not like I'm doing any sort of like, oh, look at my fancy this or fancy that. It's like, yeah, I got windows, I got walls, I got some brick, I got AC units.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in somebody's apartment.
Yeah.
Just having a beer on a Thursday afternoon or whatever.
Hopefully your friend has a clean apartment, because that's what we're striving for. But
no, this is clean. Yeah, this is great.
I'm gonna say that is one of the best IPAs I've ever had.
What are you snacking on?
It is the what's it called? The contains hops.
There are hops in that beer. Yeah.
I'm one of those assholes that I really only like IPAs. It's my thing, but that is clean. It is.
Well, we call them hoppy beers here, but yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's a very
man.
good hoppy beer.
Not to be confused.
I'm drinking from the last 2 cases we have of the can release, or one of the can releases we did for our anniversary. It's a beer that's called "It'd Be a Lot Cooler If It Was Green." It's a riff on our house beer, which is called Green Showers.
Okay.
And the joke is like, you go to a bar and you're like, you got beer? And they say, yeah. And you say, do you have green showers? And they say, no. And you say, it'd be a lot cooler if it was green, just like Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
This is episode 28, 29.
Yeah.
That's our first Matthew McConaughey reference.
All right.
Damn. That was great.
But, yeah. No, I mean, contains hops is cheating, though. So that's why you like it. I mean, that beer's... Like, it's bullshit. It's awesome, but it's bullshit. I just throw the sexiest hops you can get on it. It's not like I'm working with hard ingredients or anything.
Well, you mentioned at the beginning of this, and we were kind of just turned on the mics and everything, about how hard it is to make a lager. And I feel bad sometimes, like drinking hoppy beer, and I like it. But I like the taste. I don't like necessarily the easy, the simplicity of.
Let me jump in there. I mean, I was more joking.
No, you're good.
I still think like making a hoppy beer is difficult, and like contains hops is good because the grain on it is correct, the amount of hops is correct, the amount of time the yeast got to ferment, and the hops had contact with yeast, with beer. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and I think a lot of brewers pay attention to that. So to bring you back to that point about lager, I feel like lager doesn't get the same respect that like perfecting your hoppy beer does. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So like, no, I mean I bust my ass to make Contains Hops taste good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more joking that like, I mean this beer is Apollo for bittering and a bit of dankness, and then Citra, Mosaic, Galaxy, Nelson Sauvin. Those are like sex hops.
Yeah,
That's what people see. Galaxy DDH, Nelson DDH, Mosaic or
crazy.
Citra DDH. They're going for that beer. So Contains Hops is sort of my joke about like, yeah, this beer's got some hops in it. It's pretty happy, but it's like the most sexy hops that. When
But you
people
can
say they
hide
get
a lot of
excited.
garbage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. There's some
You
garbage.
can
beers
hide a
that
lot
can
of garbage with
yeah.
hops, but those
Yeah.
hoppy beers aren't that good. They're just really hoppy.
Yeah.
That's why, like, you can taste that
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah.
Because I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah,
I'm
get in
trying to
there.
create a platform for the hops to speak. I'm not trying to just have the hops yell at you.
Yeah.
I think that
Wow.
Did you hear that?
Oh my God.
The hops
This
is
like
speaking to you.
like we're like
It's not yelling at you.
it's like we're at a cafe in Paris right now. No, next to the College Calais de France. Okay, so I've appreciated every single thing you've said here. Let's get down real quick just to the food situation. What do you guys do for food?
are you all right, Jeff? Are you?
Yeah.
Jay.
Sorry.
Jay, it's okay.
There you go,
That's all
guys.
right. No,
See?
this is good.
There's
I'm
my
not-
first fudge up.
No, don't worry about it. We'll
I
edit
will,
out
Jeff.
anything bad.
call
but,
you Jeff
but
from
yeah,
now on.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. Sam loves to leave in to remind me how insignificant I am, which is always
There
good.
you go.
Yeah.
That's what I was going for sure.
Yeah.
This is fucking good IPA. It's
Hoppy
not.
beer.
It's not a. It's
You
not
don't
an
like
IPA.
IPAs.
It's a
Hoppy
hoppy beer, but it's not. Look at this. I think he just described every problem I've ever had with IPAs. Is that somebody makes a fucking beer and it feels like I'm getting yelled at by a
By
beer.
hops or by bitterness, yeah.
Yeah, and this is. I mean, this is neither hoppy, like extremely happy, nor is it bitter.
No, it's good.
No, I try to put as much flavor into the beer, again, without detracting from what we established for me beer is, which is something that you need to be able to drink a bunch of. You got to be able to have more than one of it. I don't want it to be a novelty thing. It should be something that we're just doing. We're just hanging out, drinking beer. We can get excited about it, but like I don't like the fattization of beer and like the putting crazy different beers on a pedestal. It's like, dude, this thing is a cheap liquid to make. Like, it's not. It doesn't matter what everyone puts in it. I went to Belgium. I talked with Armand from Driefontein, and he tells you if you can't drink more than 2 of beer, it's shit. That's his words. That guy makes the best, goose in the world. So it's like,
Cheers to that.
I mean, this is what we got from Conrad the other day. We were talking to David Lynn. We were there last week. It's the same thing. Like that's
that's
the
because they
same-
make good beer too.
But I know, but
we
like,
all think the
I
same.
know, but like the same approach. Like
Yeah.
if you can only have one of these beers, like
Then we fucked up.
Exactly.
If I make a beer here and you honestly feel after drinking it that not because of a time constraint or a money constraint, just because of a palate fatigue or like fullness constraint, then I fucked something up as far as I'm concerned. I did something wrong because again, even Contains hops, 7.5%, loaded with big sexy hops. You can drink a bunch of it. You'll get drunk, but you can drink a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Because it's designed to still be beer, still be something that like let's go slam a couple back.
Yeah.
Back home in Israel, we say let's go sit on a beer.
Let's
Let's
go s-
like we're gonna go sit and
have
over
a beer,
and talk,
yeah.
but it's not over it's over beer.
Over beer.
Let's go sit over beer.
Yeah.
And you just sit and have beers and joke about soccer, whatever happened, and it's something that I want to bring back here, like the almost like the dive bar quality of conversation where you can talk about whatever, but with fancy ass beer. That's like what I want for beers. Like it should just be the facilitator of the fun time.
and this place is filling up. By the way, since Jay and I
Filling up,
Yeah, it's
filling up.
starting to-
I'm looking around though, and Tamir said something that I think we both picked up on, and there's the word soccer. I don't see any TVs in here, which is not. I'm not complaining, but I did very quickly connect this place as probably a soccer-friendly establishment. There are a couple of triggers. Well, the Barcelona jersey was one, and then
Visca Barça, Visca Catalunya.
there you go. This is a legit soccer
like your
fan
soulmate,
here. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like me too. He's the
Yeah,
Israeli version.
if you're I'll say it for the coffee boys too. If you're a Barcelona fan, you're welcome. If you're a Liverpool fan, you're welcome. If you're a Manchester United fan, you're welcome. If you're an Arsenal fan, you're welcome. I know for British Premier League fans, that's all going to sound crazy, but they're 3 brothers and they like 3 different teams.
It happens.
If you're a Real Madrid fan, don't come when I'm here.
All I wanted to know was who wasn't invited back.
Yes, of
And
course.
not to timestamp this shit, but Gareth Bale released
Where's he gonna go?
I didn't see, but he's no longer.
Not my team, not my problem.
Yeah, you're not worried about it, unless
I just don't want to get Neymar.
Exactly.
Please, no
That happened
Neymar.
fast, by the way. He's been with PSG for what, 2 seasons?
Yeah, but PSG's a shit team. PSG
Yeah.
fans out there, you should know that. That's a shit Petro Club team. It has no history and no value. It's just money.
still welcome at Novel Strand, I'm assuming, because they
To
weren't
drink
on the,
beer. Don't talk PSG politics here.
There you go. That's good.
But I'll always give you a beer, man.
So you have openly embraced one of my favorite perspectives on branding, which is building a culture around what you're doing. Was that something that you kind of came into this business wanting and knowing, or is it so much influenced by your travels throughout Europe and also Israel? And
No, that's
East
what we
Coast?
wanted in the beginning, man. I mean, like I said, so the reason we came was because we knew that we would be welcome in Denver as far as like what we're trying to do with beer. But I think the idea of building like a culture or an education behind what you're doing is extremely important, because the more educated beer drinkers are, the less shitty beer we all have to drink. By the effect.
Very true.
I'm gonna do a contains hops 10 ounce, please.
I'll do another one of these. They're just actually
Beer sponsored by Sydney.
Can you recommend another hoppy beer that isn't that?
Supreme.
I will take that, please. Thank you. 10 ounce. Yeah. Didn't come to watch. Sorry.
Your first pour threw me off, though.
I know,
I even had to ask Sid. I was like, "What the hell? I don't know what's going on."
She wanted to make sure I liked it.
That's a polite beer tender.
Was serviced by Sid.
She's good. Yeah.
Sydney's the shit. But yeah, so I do think like the more everyone's educated and more aware of what goes into a beer, how beer is made, what's an off flavor, what's a good flavor, then like shitty beer disappears by definition, because it just won't be purchased anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody will ask for it. Nobody
will
wants
ask for it. No one will be able to hide it with hops, like you're saying. And so, you can ask people that I've talked to from the beginning. I said from the start, I'm playing a long game. I don't play a short game. So I don't necessarily do trendy beers or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just I don't want to make a beer that I'm not passionate about, and I don't want to make a beer that I don't want to drink.
But you don't have. Okay, so here I'm going to press you on this. You don't have to when you take that approach to running a brewery. And I think that it's finally starting to fucking click in my head, right? Like, there are so many good brewers at bigger breweries like Tivoli or Great Divide or New Belgium who are forced to make these beers, and I think there's a freedom to that, and I really appreciate that. Is what I'm saying.
Forced is a tough word, because it's part of their job. It's what they signed up for, and those breweries all make good beer. You know what I mean? So I agree with you, but the more of what I mean is that there are some breweries that, because of the way the industry is, maybe the way there's so many breweries, people I feel under pressure to do what's popular, or to do something that they might not necessarily be popular about. And I think you're going to see that more in a brewery that's not owned by the brewer, or where the brewer doesn't have say. So if it's a kind of a brewery, even a small one, where the owner can sort of come and be like, hey, I noticed this shit's popular, make it, that quality is going to suffer. And so that's what comes back again to us trying to establish a culture or a level here at Novel Strand, where what I'm hoping for is that after you've had a few of my hoppy beers, after you've had some of our saison, sours, whatever, that you start kind of paying more attention to, like, okay, I noticed that he uses Mosaic in a few hops. This is what those flavors do. That's interesting. Is that what Mosaic tastes like? Because that's what I did. And that's how I know how Mosaic tastes like. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, like he talks about Brettanomyces a lot. Like, every beer he puts Brettanomyces in has a little bit of that funky quality. That's what Brettanomyces does. But he does Brettanomyces beers that aren't sour. Maybe Brett doesn't make beers sour. So you learn by having the beer. And fuck if that's not a fun way to learn about beers, by fucking drinking it. So
I love this.
Yeah, we learned a lot just drinking over the last couple of months. So
but that's what I'm saying.
I've learned more in 30 minutes.
You and I don't know if you know Zach Rabin down at Mockery. Are the
yes,
closest,
I know.
But you're
that's awesome.
I mean, like
we did a collaboration with Mockery.
Did you
awesome.
really?
Yeah, dude. It was fantastic. We did.
When was that?
Yeah.
Is it still around? Can we
Zach,
find
what
it?
Did we do? No, it's
Fuck
gone.
Zach.
We did
No,
this
not-
maybe almost 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
We did a double Brett fermented beer that we dry hopped with 2 different hops, and it was awesome. It was really, really, really fun. Had a nice funk, had a nice hop character. They bottled some of it. I mean, we had a fun time making it. We had a fun time thinking about it. So they're a brewery that likes to have fun, but they also know their shit. So I respect that. Some breweries just do shit for the fuck of it, but don't actually know how to do real stuff or have any idea how to do real stuff. But when we were talking with them, they're a brewery that does a lot of crazy shit. But when I was talking to them,
they own it.
They own it. But I'm saying, like, when I talked to them and we made this double Brett fermented, no sack beer, stuff like that, like, they knew also what they were talking about. Like, they were bringing ideas to it. It wasn't like it was foreign to them. It wasn't like they were doing it like, let's do it for the fuck of it.
Yeah.
Even though they do like crazy beers where I'm like, my God, guys, you're crazy. And then I taste it and I'm like, nah, shit kind of works together.
Yeah.
Like, damn, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So
They
it was
do
cool.
a bang-up
Yeah.
job. I wonder if we might have to reach out to Zach. They might have a bottle or 2 of that lying around still. Knowing Zach the way I think we've figured out, something tells me he's got something stashed around there.
He might. I mean, last time I had a bottle that someone had like in their like refrigerator in a house. It was actually like a really cool, nice saison, which is funny because we put so much hops in it. I'm just looking real quick to see if I can remember what the name of this beer was because it's escaping me and I don't want to be a dick. So I'm trying to find it. Yeah, it was the Funkin' Stupor. That's what it was.
The Funkin' Stupor.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was a fun beer.
I feel like Zach and Mockery gets, and no disrespect to anybody here, but we have a lot of these conversations and they just get overlooked, right? They're just the quiet guy in the corner making kick-ass beer. Even when we were at Talnua, they forgot to shout out to him.
Yeah, but they've also been open for a while and they're still open, which tells you that there's still people going there because they make good beer, so people hang out.
I have to go there now every year. Every year, mid-December, to celebrate.
As a beer drinker, Mockery, but also this place is kind of where I want to be. Like, this is my jam. This is 100% my jam. There's not to say there's anything wrong with a bunch of fruity fucking beers, but it's nice to appreciate what is in what I'm drinking.
I feel like
I was going to say what's in my mouth.
pure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
you knew that was a watermelon pitch, waiting to get
that was
waiting to get
a
hammered.
softball. Yeah.
No, this is. I feel like this is a beer. Not to say purist or snob or but this is a good quality beer joint.
Yes.
You don't have to be. So here's the cool thing: being a snob is a choice. You're choosing to be a dick, which is fine. I've been there. Everyone goes through it.
It's true.
But to enjoy good beer, that's the great thing about good beer, and that's why I'm a big fan of good beer in whatever form it is, and whoever makes it. It doesn't have to be me. But the good thing about good beer or good food or good music or a good movie is that you don't have to be an expert to enjoy it because it's fucking good.
100%.
So like things that taste good. That's why they taste good. I know this sounds really stupid to say, but like, humans, as different as we are, we're all pretty fucking similar. Our palates still work mostly the same across all of humanity. I know that sounds crazy to racist people out there, but like, so things that taste good because we're all sort of the same. And so like a good beer, whether you're a fucking beer expert, BJCP triple judge, blah blah blah, Cicerone nuts and blah blah blah, or like a dude that wants to get drunk or a girl that wants to party, good beer's gonna taste good. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an education to know it. And so I'm not looking at myself as a purist bar or as a snob bar or as this. If you want a good beer, come hang out.
It's
I
very
got some.
inviting.
That's it.
Very
You don't have to know much. You can learn here. You don't even have to learn. You can completely ignore everything and drink a good beer and talk about bullshit with your homie. Perfect. That's what beer's for. That's what I'm here for. If you want to nerd out, we're here for that too. But all I want to do is make good beer and put it out there. That's the kind of brewer I am. That's it.
And all I want to do is drink it.
I know. Like forever.
I mean, I don't like talking about it after the show typically, right? But
Yeah.
I just want to come in and drink a beer, and I'm pretty sure that my new business cards are going to have this address on them next time I re-up.
This could be a problem.
I'm
It's
okay
right in
with
between
it.
where we should be going just for these weekly
all the
meetings.
time, all the time. And if we get here at 2, we have a coffee. If we get here at 3, we have a beer.
We can
If
make it all day.
If we
If
get here
you
at
do it
2:30.
the way we envisioned, you have both.
Yes, I was going to say, if
You
you get
come
here
early, do the big business, do the real meetings, have coffee, and then after that, hang out,
Yeah. You know
Have a
the
couple
old
beers.
saying, coffee is for closers, which I've heard a couple of times just today. Coffee is not for closers.
No.
I think beer is for closers.
For closers.
Coffee
So
kicks off the day.
you brought up a point about food. I want to kind of touch on.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Before, but no, not just where you're getting your food, but I appreciate the fact that you had talked about a palate and so much of this stuff. It ought not be inaccessible. It ought not be pretentious.
No.
And I think, like, that's where I like the idea of food pairings, but also those unpretentious food pairings. Like, I want to have a beer with a good bowl of pasta, right? Or like this kind of thing. And I think a lot of times beer is viewed as this thing where you can't have a good meal with a beer. With
It's
an
either
IPA.
that you can't have a good meal or that it has to be super fancy.
Yeah.
But that's what. So that's again. That brings it up to it. Is it's like beer is for everyone, man. It doesn't matter what demographic you're in because it brings us back to the food that or fact, not food. That a good beer is going to taste good. A good bowl of pasta is going to taste good. Good jerk chicken is going to taste good. Good shawarma is going to taste good. Like good empanadas are going to taste good. Like things that taste good. So beer, if it's good, and food, if it's good, will work together. And some flavors are going to contrast, so you have to find maybe the correct style of beer. But that's the beautiful thing about good beer. You have hundreds of choices. There's hundreds of different flavor profiles you can go with. So you can match it with the food, whether it's a grilled cheese or it's
Well, I was
a
going to say
fancy
hot dog,
dinner.
right? Like you go to a baseball game, you get a regular old hot dog that's been wrapped in foil for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but you can get any of 17 fucking beers at Coors Field right now. And they run the gamut, right? And I could have a double hop IPA with a hot dog on dollar hot dog night. Now, I'm not saying it's the perfect combination, but a beer is a beer, right? Like if you're having a good quality beer,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
it's still going to be the best hot dog you ever had.
I was gonna say, is like each bite of hot dog's gonna taste like a mango passion.
Yeah, it's
fruit
going to taste
IPA.
amazing. So, that being said, and we didn't get to talk enough about it. That's why I'm just going to hijack it. Sam just had a potty
Well,
break, I imagine.
yeah, always.
But let's bring it back to soccer for a minute. I mean, what's a
I'm very ignorant about soccer, so he's got
Yeah,
his brother
no,
moved
I-
away, so he's got nobody to talk about soccer.
No,
with.
I really don't, and I don't play it as much
So we're going
anymore.
to be here at least 3 times a week.
My kid moved on to lacrosse, which is great, by the way. Oh, Sid's taking another shot. She's
I gave
photo
her the
happy.
camera.
I know.
Take
Yeah.
it away. Shoot away.
Jeez.
I know. Nobody's
shit.
ever there to take pictures of us. It's always just like you and whoever we're talking
Yeah,
to.
yeah. They don't like my shots either. I just want to know, like, what's a good soccer beer? I mean, honest to God, like what are you going to crush during the next Barcelona game, or
Oh,
what
man,
are you
I
going
mean,
to sit
shit.
behind the goal at
You're
the Rapids
messing me
game?
up here because I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Like
Any
by my
beer that
definition,
tastes
any good beer will be good for a Barca game because
All right.
any good beer is gonna be drinkable and have good flavor.
So-
there's sometimes like it depends where you're sitting. If you're watching outside, you're probably gonna want to stick to something that's either like a really crispy Pils or maybe something like a
I was
sour.
going to say.
We do like a beer called Southern Lights, which is dry hopped and lightly soured by bacteria, so it's not gonna burn your teeth off or anything. The acidity is very crisp, very light, and that would be really good on like a nice summer day outside, watching a game. If you're inside though, you want your team to win, you want to be aggressive, you want to grab something that's hoppy. You want to get that big boost of flavor and
Contains
drink it, and
hops.
every sip you take is like, let's do it, boys. So
You
So
just
yeah,
made sense of my
as
entire
long
Oh
as
my
it's good
God.
and it's drinkable, you can drink that beer, baby.
We gotta strap on the old GoPro body cam and go to a soccer game with Tamir here,
I am 100% down.
and prepay for the cab ride and/or bail.
Yes.
I mean, just set aside cash.
Oh, you won't need bail.
That's my kind of attitude.
I'm respectable still.
We weren't worried about you.
What are next steps for Novel Strand? What are you thinking? I guess what 6 months, a year look like?
I got to brew a beer tomorrow.
Okay,
No.
there's that.
Here's the timeline.
No,
This is-
so dude, we don't have many changes. We're working on getting our little barrel facility set up.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a separate little
for aging and
for fermenting. We ferment fully in barrels. Some brewers choose to ferment a little bit in steel and then transfer into barrels, which is cool. I mean, I've had phenomenal beer like that. My personal view, I want everything to happen in the barrel. So the barrel facilities, so I can keep making beers like. I want to talk about this beer. Fuck. I want to talk about dancing with the
Do
moon.
it,
This beer
do
we
it.
just made. So like. We do a lot of hoppy beer. We do the Pilsner. We do a wit beer. We do beers where I have like a lot of control and I decide a lot what happens. But one of my other passions is what happens to beer in a barrel. And I think that that's sort of getting quietly slept on sometimes here, and it still needs to be like, some big fruited thing or something like that. Whereas like for Dancing with the Moon, we just made a beer and put it in a wine barrel and let it sit for a while. And when it tasted as best as we thought it would, we bottled it, and that's it. We had barely any control. We sort of just set up the environment and hoped that it would make a good beer. I had 2 barrels to blend with, and that's it. And it's like the best beer I ever made. And so the barrel facility is to be able to do more stuff like that, where I can just brew beers, pump them into barrels, and forget about them, and let the barrel and the beer, the yeast, the bacteria, everything do what it needs to do, while I can be here focusing on green showers or Southern Lights or Nitwit or stuff like that, where I have control. And I don't think those beers need to be insanely expensive. I think that they just need to be accessible. There are beers that don't even taste like beer. I mean, this thing tastes like a peach sangria. It's got beautiful acidity, fruit qualities without having any fruit. It's got beautiful funk, 7.3%, so you can get crunk on a bottle of it. So it's everything I want, and so the barrel facility is to do more of that. So that's like, hopefully, should have been already happening, but never does anything happen like your dream does. So we're working on it, and probably that's the next move in the 6 months to a year. And we don't really have anything, man. Like, if it gets too slammed and we can't keep up with beer, we'll just take a day off. Like, we'll shut down on Mondays again and then take Wednesdays off. Like, yeah. I don't have any capability of more production back here. And I'm very not interested in a production facility because, again, if I'm under pressure to make more beer in bigger quantities and blah, 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 then that means I can't make the beer as best as I can make it. I'm under pressure.
Go ahead and take tomorrow off.
I am, but I'm brewing, and then Wednesday, and then Friday.
What does that tell you about brewers, Sam? When an off day, when they take a day off, they just brew.
If you're a brewer who's a brewery owner, there is no off day.
Yeah, but you're happy brewing, right? You're happy brewing?
I'm happy brewing, but I'm saying there's no off day. Like, even on a day where you don't have to do much, you have to come in and check some shit out, see what's going on. Does it need to be dry hop transferred? Does a tank need to get cleaned? Do you need to check your malt inventory and make sure you're ready for next week's brewing schedule? There's always something. Even if it's an hour's worth of work, there's always something you got to do. So it's funny, like, during our anniversary, Kevin Greer from Bear, fucking awesome person, comes over, hangs out, has a couple of beers, and he's like, I got to go to another event to show face, and then I got to go back to the brewery to dry hop some beer and check on some stuff. So there's no, we don't get any days off, but that's the passion. And
so no tropical vacations on the horizon for Tamir and Chantel, but
January, February, we're going to go to the Dominican Republic.
Oh, fuck, I was
Chantel's
wrong.
from. Yeah. We're fine. That's the slow season, so I can just get a couple beers on tap, like ready. Make sure that my bartenders and my brother, the bar manager, can handle everything, and then I'm gone.
If you need a little,
sit on the beach.
If you need a little help in December brewing, let us know. Sam gets some downtime after the first week of December.
I've carried some grain.
Yeah, you have carried some grain.
Do it. Yeah.
You're not big enough for that.
No, let us know. I think let's just end this and drink that beer that he's been talking about.
Oh, dude.
That's the next thing.
Yeah.
So.
What did you ask me about food or something?
Oh, we don't ever really.
We never get there.
Don't worry about it. Do
you have we got food. No, we got good food, man. Hold the fuck up. What the hell? No. So,
settle down.
So when we went to, when we were in Belgium, you go to a bar, you ask for a beer, they give you cheese right off the bat with it and bread.
What?
So we can't give you stuff for free, but our, house snacks is basically a charcuterie and cheese board or a cheese board that we get from our very, 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 very close friends at Goodzoer over in 5 Points. And one of the best bars in America, sour beer, incredible, mind-blowing food from my friend Chef Anthony. So we came back from Belgium, and I texted Anthony. I hit him up. I said, Anthony, you got to help me with something. I need, can you check if you're licensed to do it? Everything's cool. It's legit. So he started getting me food. So now Sydney usually sells them out on, Wednesday, and by Thursday night they're gone, and we get food trucks. But if you come on Wednesday, we get a fresh drop of these beautiful, beautiful meat and cheese boards. Different kinds of salami, prosciutto, serrano ham, different cheeses, different jams that Goodzoer makes fresh. It's really beautiful. And we like it because it's different, a lot. And I don't have a problem with breweries just having potato chips or popcorn or whatever, but So every brewery I go to has the same exact thing. And I don't want to have the same exact thing. And I'm not doing this for novelty. I'm doing it because when I was in Belgium, it felt really right. It felt really correct to be able to like eat these nice cheeses, even with like a hoppy beer or whatever. So I want to be able to do that here. And then sometimes he also brings us these air-fried chickpeas, which are like potato chips kind of, and they're addicting, and they're really good for beer.
So, one more time, slower for me. The name of the restaurant?
Good Zuur.
Good Zuur.
Goedzuur. Good Zuur.
And
where
you
is
got
it?
an address?
28th and Welton.
Oh,
Have we not been there?
Amazing.
I don't know.
Guys, amazing food.
Where
Go
are
to
they
the
from?
bar, sit, or go to the chef's table, which is the chef's counter. Sit there with Anthony and say, Tamir said you make really good food, and just let Anthony take care of you and pay the man whatever he asks for, because it's gonna be it's gonna be worth.
sounds like an interview in the happening here.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I would love to sit at Gozo with Anthony and talk food and sour beer. Like, I would love that. That would be a
I
dream.
guess we gotta go and do that.
Good
we gotta do
craft,
this episode.
unfiltered.
You're good. Go ahead. Well, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
fine.
yeah.
That's the whole point. It's
Unfiltered. Unfiltered is not about just beer, right?
Good
it's about
Zuur.
food.
We gotta go.
Yeah. Drop the name.
How do we find you on the Instagrams and the Twitters
Oh,
and the
on the
whatevers?
Facebooks and all that. I think we're just Novel Strand.
You are.
You just do Novel Strand, and we'll show up. We have Instagram, and we have Facebooks. We don't Twitter. We don't tweet.
Yeah, I've yet to figure out.
Give
the
it till
value of
2020 at least.
Yeah.
tweeting. Yeah, you're
When
not-
he's off of Twitter, I'll start tweeting.
Nobody needs the competition right now.
But yeah, that's actually, like, Instagram is probably, and Facebook is the best place to keep up with us. That's where we say, what food trucks we have, what new beers on tap, stuff like that.
Anything coming up that people can find you, like any festivals or any?
Yeah, you guys just missed our 1 year anniversary where we released a
did.
shit ton of beer in 5 days. Some of it's almost gone, so if you make it soon, you can get some.
That's why Tamir had time for an interview today.
Yeah. You guys remember how shitty I was with responding to your emails
No, you're
during the
good.
anniversary? I was just like, sorry.
I hate you right now.
But yeah,
I'm brewing beer. I've got stuff that I'm really worried about.
So I'm getting back on the brewing train now after putting on so many new beers. So usually when I'm in my groove over here, you can expect 1 or 2 new beers almost every weekend, which is really cool. And that's because of the way I designed the brewing system. So it's a 5-barrel brewing system, but I have 10-barrel tanks, 5-barrel tanks, and 3-barrel tanks. So I can do a mix of everything. So I usually always have beer at various stages getting ready to get released. So generally, there's about 1 new beer a week once I'm back in action.
Okay. And because we got to ask this question, is this the only place we can find you? You're not in restaurants? You're not in liquor stores?
Every once in a while, and I mean that, every once in a while we'll have a beer at Goedzuur, or
wondered.
we'll have a beer at Finn's Manor. Finn's Manor in Rhino. Oh my God, dude, that's like
Apparently,
it's one of the
Sam-
it's in my opinion the best like overall bar, especially bar experience in Denver. Finn's Manor is the place that if a group of people comes to visit us, we go there, because if you want the best beer, they have it. If you want the best cocktails, they have it. If you want crazy rare ass liquor selections that no one's ever heard of except your one friend who's whiskey obsessed, Tommy's got it. So it's a really beautiful bar for people who care about anything related to quality.
Are you writing these down, Sam?
Yeah, Billy and I were gonna go there the other day.
So Finn's Manor is great,
yeah.
and then they have food trucks parked out
Oh, sorry, but
in their
Barcelona.
patio.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's 29th and Larimer.
Oh.
Sorry, 29th and Larimer.
Okay.
But
Just
yeah,
down from
so
Ratio.
like we've
Yes.
had that's the only bar that we've had green showers on tap in. And then with Goedzuur, usually if I have a sour beer or funky beer that I'm really excited about and I think is like unique, I'll hit them up and say, hey, does this work with what you've got coming, with what you want to do? So Anthony does his ramen on Sunday. And so we did a sake Brett Saison, where I fermented it with sake yeast from Kumamoto in Japan, and then a Brettanomyces strain I really like. We did the aged hops, everything, a little bit of rice on the grist. So I talked with Anthony, and it was like, fuck, man, this is a beer that makes sense for his ramen. So.
It's a ramen beer, huh?
Well, he does ramen at Goedzuur, and then we do ramen here every Sunday with our homie Hiro from Ninja Ramen Mobile, and it's You can't go wrong if you go to either. So I'm not going to get mad if you go to Anthony to eat ramen, and I'm not going to be mad at you if you come to Hero here on Sunday and eat ramen.
I guess my next 2 Sundays are booked.
No shit. All right, let's do a tour of the facility.
Yeah.
Let's do a shot, or what is it called? Beer, but a
cheers.
shot.
Is that what you meant? A shot.
Wow. This stuff is...
That's what happens when you drink contains hops,
Contains
guys.
hops.
All right, Tamir, thank you so much. We much appreciate it. Get here to Novel Strand as soon as possible. This
Ask
place
for Sid.
Get here at 7 a.m. Drink some coffee, and it's the Queen City, right?
Queen City Coffee.
Queen City Coffee. You're not going to be let down.
Well, we do a lot of cool shit with them too, man. I mean, I know you guys are going to shut it down, but we got a beer on right now.
No, you're good. Keep talking.
I'm saying we got a beer on right now that we made with them, where the coffee guys went down to Colombia in January, and I sent some Brettanomyces and Lactobacillus, so yeast and bacteria, down to Colombia with them. And they took cherries, coffee cherries, so admittedly mid-season, so not the best, but they took these cherries and we dumped them in a bin and we poured the yeast and bacteria over them and fermented the coffee cherries. And so the coffee seed, the bean, absorbs a lot of that flavor when the coffee dries. And then we got the coffee back here stateside and they roast it. And they have really crazy flavorful coffee, so everything they do is really light roast. So this coffee got a really light roast, and then we cold brewed it into a light colored beer, not a stout, into a light colored beer that I fermented with a blend of yeast from Scandinavia. It's a type of yeast called Kvik yeast.
Okay.
And they're a little bit more fruity, crazy. They can work with warmer temperature, stuff like that. So we made this really cool base beer and then infused fermented coffee into it because I have access to Queen City. So we can do crazy stuff with coffee, whether it's a stout or a light colored beer, because with them we can literally control the flavor profile of the coffee by how we ferment it. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we do that we can do because of the partnership with them. And so we got really lucky that we don't have just a coffee shop. Like, they're a legit roaster. Yeah. They import, they roast everything. So we now are privy to every part and every step of the coffee making process, which can impact and improve how we can make certain beers with coffee and how we can use all the ingredients from the coffee process in beer. So that's pretty cool too. I like to nerd out about that because it's fun. It's a really cool thing to be able to do.
So now we're going to go do that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
I know. I kept looking at it. I'm like, man, it looks a little intimidating. But it right here it says, kind of a crazy beer! !
Yeah. That was the best way to describe it. I was like, it's kind of a crazy beer. So.
Do you write all these yourself?
Yeah, I make the menu.
Fuck yeah, I love it.
This place is awesome. Get over here, Novel Strand, First and Cherokee. It's well worth it. All right.
Cheers.
Jay. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
There we go.